Good evening, everyone. Welcome to post-match reactions to our game against Villa tonight with LFC Transfer Room. I'm joined tonight with Stitches and Patricio. Good evening, gents. Hope you're both okay. One of those kind of games where just beforehand we're just having a bit of a chat about it. It's almost a little bit of relief, a little bit of frustration, kind of all rolled into one. And one of them games where you look at and go, we could have won the game and probably should have with some of the chances, but equally they had their chances. So it's one of them. Do you take it as a point gain? Do you take it as 2-point loss? It's almost one of them situations where it's difficult to sum up in some instances. I'll come around to you both, just see how you both are before we jump into everything. How are you doing, Stitches? You okay, bud?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. As I said, I'm a mixture of relieved and frustrated at the same time, which is a weird combination of emotions. But I think we take that point from Villa Park and we run.
Yeah,
Basically,
kind of
yeah.
have to, yeah. What about you, Patricia? How are you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I think pl played okay at times, but then I think what was annoying is the fact that we couldn't seem to just put away our chances if we could be clinical enough. I think players' decision making just wasn't there. I think we're coming off of the game against Wolves where we still were a bit shaky there as well, and now we're going on to face City. I think we need to be back in that mindset before Christmas. In that sort of winning mentality again. But yeah, I don't know what to take of it, to be honest. I think Slot's decision making of who he brings on when he did, but wasn't particularly amazing. But I guess we'll get into that.
Yeah. Just to check here, Stitches, are you getting a bit of feedback as well, or is it all right on yours?
Yeah, so I think it's when Pat speaks, I get a bit of feedback.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I think it's me.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it'll be fine. I'm sure. Let us know if it's not, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Cool. Yeah, I agree with kind of what you were touching on there, but we'll get into it in a little bit more detail as well. And before we jump into stuff about the game, everyone just remember to like and subscribe, turn on your notifications and everything, so you don't miss out on future streams and content across all social medias and YouTube and everything as well. Cool. Yeah. Before we jump into the game itself, what kind of surprised me before the game was the team selection. I kind of looked at it and thought, how are we even going to set up? What are we going to play today? Because obviously Jones, Szoboszlai in the same team together. Haven't seen that very often. McAllister and Gravenberch sat behind them too. It was almost, I was thinking, are we going to go in banks of twos? Are we going to be in a four across the top? Or we're kind of split? Are we going to be in a diamond? Wasn't really sure. Stitches, what did you make of the team beforehand when you saw it come out?
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw on one site that they had Jones out on the left, and then I saw another site that had Szoboszlai out on the left. And I think what I saw was that we kind of played a box midfield.
Yeah.
And they kind of rotated their positions, and which is interesting. I think it's needs must at this moment in time. I think if you listen to the presser before the game, Slot was talking about the fact that Gakpo's injury meant that Diaz has had to play 90 minutes, which isn't ideal. And then to get him to play another 90 minutes in this high intensity game, I just don't think it would have worked out. So he had to, it's a case of, go with what we had. And that was it. I was stunned to see Szoboszlai and Jones play 90 minutes, but I think it's because of the way the game went, really. And truly, you saw he tried to take a few people off, took Trent off, took McAllister off, who looked like he'd been in the wars. And looked like he completely ran out of legs at one point. So yeah, we are literally operating on fumes at the moment, I think, based on the little period of games that we've had. So the reality is, it might not feel like it right now or look like it right now, because the way the media are portraying this title race is like they're trying to make it seem closer than it is, and they're trying to add a level of jeopardy that they wouldn't normally add. And they're trying to, and our fan base is pretty, I think, traumatized from all the years of chasing City, that we're all feeding into this frenzy to make it seem closer than it is. The reality is we've played one more game and we're 8 points clear of Arsenal, who have no strikers. And yes, they had a good victory the other day, but they've got pretty tricky ties coming up, over the next few weeks, as do we. And all we have to do is just keep getting grinding out these points and picking results up. And, and it just, every single game where we don't lose makes it that much more difficult for Arsenal to close the gap. And the reality is they're running out of games. and they actually don't need us getting points through draws or anything like that. They need us to lose. And at the same time, a loss to them would be absolutely devastating, as would a draw be. So all this Jedi mind tricks that people and the media are playing to try and get the anxiety up in our fan base, and it seems to be working online, to be honest. It just seems in the stadium there seems to be less anxiety than there is online in groups. So I think for my own sanity, I've not partaken in social media as much or stayed in groups as much, because you get the usual knee jerks and the scapegoating and everything else that goes with it when you get a result like this, which in any other season a draw away to Aston Villa would be considered a good point. It's not bad at all. But tonight it's an absolute disaster, and everyone's losing their shit, if you don't mind my language. But I thought the formation, the selection of players is we went with what we had, and we didn't lose, and that's the key thing. Just keep churning out those points and getting results. Obviously wins are better than draws, but I'll take that away from home.
And on the face of it, when you take kind of the emotion out of everything as well, like you were just saying, where people kind of lose their minds because they go, we could have been 10 points clear tonight. And the fact of reality is we could have been 10 points clear, but we could have equally been 7 points clear if they take a couple of their chances and finish the game off towards the end as well. So let's be thankful it's 8. What I would say is, when you look at, I know we had the same conversation last week, Stitches, after the Everton game, where we're kind of sitting going, it's another 2-2, and we kind of should have seen the game through. And so it was, I know it was kind of decisions last week that kind of went away, but we could be sat here today thinking, well, we're 12 points clear, but equally 8 points clear of Arsenal. Arsenal know now any slip-ups from them, it's just going to be more and more pressure, regardless of the fact that it's only 8 and not 10. Every time they don't win a game, every time they're drawing a game late on, it's going to build. And things like that today, where we don't play particularly well in phases and Villa have chances to win it, that goes to Arsenal and they think, Liverpool could have really lost that game. But instead, now we're 8 points behind them instead of 7 points behind them. It's almost the mentality that you have to kind of look how it could switch for both, isn't it? Rather than always going, we're only 8 points clear.
Absolutely. And you've got, as I said, the media doing the best job in the world of trying to make it seem closer than it is. And that plays into the Arsenal mindset. Do you know what I mean? That they're trying to tell themselves that a draw and 8 points behind us with 13 games to go, I think it is at this stage, is tight. The reality is it's not. It hasn't been tight in every season in the Prem bar 1. Where that kind of deficit's been turned around. It's only ever happened once. And
I was about to say, the reality of it is Newcastle are the only team in that kind of gap. I know it was 12 points, but from 6 to 12 points, they're the only team that have lost it in this kind of period with that gap. So hopefully it's good omens going forward on that kind of stat, but I'd never like to jinx it and say that means anything at this point. Pat, just to kind of mention the formation as well, like we were just saying there about the way it started. Just reading this from Lassetti, it said, we can see, not that one, sorry, the coming through the middle of the team. We can't force people through the middle. We have to defend out wide a little bit more. I actually thought for the first half an hour of the game in particular, where especially with kind of on goal kicks and when they were playing out from defence, that was actually working okay in terms of the high press from that. We were winning it back quite often, forcing mistakes. I think the issues came when they if they did beat that first line, they were almost walking through that second part of the midfield quite easily during periods of the game for like 5 or 10 minute periods. So how do you think that balance could have either slightly tailed off as the half went on, or could have been better? What are your kind of thoughts on the way we were set up?
Yeah, I think it was a bit odd to begin with. Obviously, you wouldn't expect it for CC Jones is on the pitch with Solskjaer as well. I think the knock to Gakpo has definitely hindered us massively. And going into it, you think we'd go with some sort of three up front, but I think the thing that's a bit odd as well is the fact that we play such a high line that we're always susceptible to those sort of counter presses, which we could have even been 3-0 at one point had he not been offside. So to set up the formation definitely hindered us, and I don't know how sort of come to that conclusion. I guess just something they've been working on. I think going forward though, we won't even have Gakpo for City, will we? So I don't know how we're gonna how we're going to adjust to that as well. I think we just have to hope that the form of City today will affect how they play on the weekend, and then they have that West Ham turn up at the Emirates. But we just seem very lethargic. I don't know what it is. Like, we seem to pass that out wide. Salah's gets predictable, and then we just seem to plateau and go pass it around the back again. It's just the same thing every day, every game,
Yeah.
So I don't know where that live. I think us having the injuries and stuff is just limiting us from being able to play the games that Slot wants to play, the tiki-taka sort of passing that he wanted to implement, the style he was bringing from Feyenoord. So yeah, I think it's difficult. Are you still getting feedback from me on this?
Yeah, it's all right. I think we can still hear you enough. I can't see anything kind of saying otherwise, but it seems to be okay, Pat. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you were just saying there in terms of how we were kind of set up, and it was almost a bit strange because we were set up to be really high pressing, and then they just like felt like there was almost a gap at times just behind that if they did manage to break through. And I said it into the group chat at half time. It just felt a little bit like we'd almost let ourselves get into that situation. We were on top of them. I know we'd scored the goal with Mo Salah and another goal and assist for him today, which we'll get onto. But in terms of we were 1-0 up, kind of felt like we were pushing towards a second, and then from nowhere, two really, really bad bits of defending led to us going in at half time 2-1 down when realistically we created, I think I put into it, we had 10 shots, but only 1 on target. That's the thing, that at the end of the day, we just needed to be more clinical in those chances where we did win it back. And we could have been going in at half time 2 or 3 nil ourselves. That's where the kind of frustration comes at half time for me. Speaking of Mo Salah, I know the goal again. I know we spoke about him last week as well, Stitches, but every away game it seems to happen. Another goal and assist away from home. Last week against Everton, he already broke a record for being the amount of goals and assists away from home in the Premier League, and he's still got games to extend it, and he's done it again today. Just a minute or two, just if you want to jump on him again.
Mate, I just run out of superlatives week after week, and I'm glad that the dissenting voices have died down now. Do you know what I mean? This guy is just, look, there is a study that says players in their final year of their contract, playing for a new contract, tend to just raise their game up a notch. And you know what? He's most certainly done that. It's like a goal and an assist every week almost. Do you know what I mean? He single-handedly kept our title race going, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the guy deserves all the credit that he gets. He's always a threat. He makes oppositions have to set up in a certain way because they can't not worry about him. And I think, you know what? Let it continue for as long as possible. Let him break as many records as possible. But at the same time, I do understand that, there is a limit to what we can offer for a player at his stage of his career. And it could mean that we say goodbye at the end of the season. I'm, as I said, I'm an LFC fan, not a Mo Salah fan.
Yeah.
But I do respect the absolute madness that he's done over his Liverpool career. And I know sometimes until you're gone, you don't get the credit that you deserve, but I most certainly am going to give him that credit because I just think when you read the stats back in years, it's going to look fake.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's going to look fake in terms of what he's delivered. And I think that's when people are going to really appreciate him. But yeah, he's just Mo Salah, isn't he? That's I think that's the biggest credit I can give him. He's just Mo Salah. Just keeps delivering. It's like death and taxes, guaranteed that he's going to score, he's going to create a chance or be involved some way in the best parts of our game. And long may it continue.
Yeah. Pat, before we move on to let's talk a little bit about the second half and kind of later stages of the game, in terms of the first half, like I say, where we had 10 shots and kind of just weren't clinical enough in front of goal, we then also let the game get away from us before half time with 2 really sloppy bits of defending. I mean, they had I think 3 shots on goal in the first half, 2 on target and 2 goals. And just looking at the last kind of run of games we've had, I think it's the last 7 games, if I'm right, the last 7 games in the Premier League, we've only had 2 clean sheets. And when you look at the start of our season, where Ibu and Verge were just seemed unstoppable, and we were keeping clean sheets all the time. And if it was, the odd goal would go in. But is it anything you think concerning the last couple of weeks where we're obviously conceding 2 goals here and there, or a goal here and there, and kind of letting goals go in a little bit more often than obviously everyone would like? And when we're not being as clinical in front of goals, obviously at half time it did us in a little bit.
Yeah, I think we switch off at times quite often. We saw it against Everton with the set piece, just completely switched off. Didn't mark the man properly. It just seemed to be like, oh, okay, we're fine. He can do what he's doing, and then just completely, and then we lose our heads, and then we're at we have to now catch up again to try to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like we're sort of on the back foot again. We're sort of wanting to be like the comeback kings from when we obviously Klopp last season. So it just seems defensively we've got a bit sloppy. But I think it's also difficult when you're playing Konate back off an injury, Verge week in week out, just constantly playing. I think obviously the amount of games, obviously we're not in the FA Cup anymore, but it does hinder us. And the thing is, obviously you've got Gomez out as well, and he's massive for us, especially this season where he can just cover the entire back line. And then, yeah, so it is quite difficult. And that is the main problem. Just put running players into the ground.
Yeah.
But to get a point, I'm not completely like. Obviously, a win would have been more than ideal. But going into the game against Villa, I had that mindset that they are a bogey team for us. They are a difficult team, and they have that winning mentality. So yeah, I kind of knew that going into that to sort of expect a couple goals to potentially be scored against us.
Yeah, and in all honesty, as I was saying before the game, I think I had it down as a 1-1 or a 2-2 in all honesty beforehand, and I thought if we do get a win from it, great. But if it is a score draw, then that's kind of what I expected, because, like you say, they are an attacking team, especially at home. I know they have. I think they've only kept 3 clean sheets all season, so I more than expected us to score. But it was one of them where you kind of go, they probably will get a goal at some point as well. And like you touched on there about the free kicks, I think I said the same to Stitches last week about the Everton game. We just seem to give away in a period of time where we get a bit of pressure, stupid little free kicks out wide or just outside the box. And like in the free kick again today, 2 people, I think we had 2 chances to clear it, and then one person's kind of just left by themselves. It falls to Tielemans and just equalises straight away. And then the second goal as well, just really, really sloppy defending just to let them through and be behind at 2-1 at half time, when realistically going in at 1-1, the game's there to kind of kick on straight away, isn't it, considering how we were attacking? So we almost gave ourselves a mountain to climb when we didn't really need to, and I felt anyway at half time. Stitch is one thing I just want to mention as well. I don't think it's really been talked about at all, but the Disasi thing in the box, what did you make of that? I know kind of a couple of people were saying on social media, I've seen where they thought it could have been a red card. I know it went to VAR, but nothing was kind of made of it. But he seemed to, I don't know whether he hit McAllister. I've only seen it back once, but did you make anything of that at the time? I didn't think there was much of it myself. But
I thought at the time that, something bigger should have been made of it. But at the same time, my mentality when it comes to officials and decisions that will be in our favour is just, I don't expect them. It's just my coping mechanism is expect nothing, and anything you get becomes a bonus. It seems a bit negative, but that's how I feel. So when I saw it happen, I just know any other game that would be a issue. VAR will be looking, it would be a talking point. Even the whole commentary tonight on TNT was just shocking, mate. It was literally like it was offside against against Villa in our favour, and it was like, oh, that was close. That was close, even though it was a country mile offside. And then when it was the other way round, it's like, oh, that was miles off. But actually, no, it was actually quite tight. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It's just this whole thing of trying to create some kind of jeopardy and try and build an atmosphere of tension around the games that all these media companies are trying to do. It's crazy to me. It is quite clear though that I think in some way, shape or form, it is getting to us because as you mentioned at the start of the season, it was a very controlled feel. And if you ask me what's the word to describe our performances, it's control. Mm-hmm. And I'm not seeing that recently. I'm seeing a bit of we start the game on the front foot, we start right, and then we just kind of go into panic mode. And we need to bring that control back, because actually, in terms of what's good for us, it's to bring that control back, because if you're able to take the lead and then just stifle the game by just passing the opposition to death and making them run around, you're conserving energy because you're not running around as much. So the reality is keeping the ball is actually what we should be doing, because then we're not as tired. We're not having to win the ball back as much. We're not having to press as hard, which, you know, is what is going to cause fatigue. But then again, saying that at the same time, after the Newcastle game, we go to like one game in March or something like that. So, you know, it's just this period of games. We got to get through it. The players are running near on empty in some aspects of the game, and we're getting through on heart. And I think that's one thing you can't question, is the mentality, the ability to take knocks in the game, like decisions not going in our favor, or, you know, or the opposition getting 2 chances and scoring 2 goals. It's that time of the season where that's going to happen, and you're going to have to find something. You're going to have to dig deep, and I think we did that again today. So if you want to take the positives out of the game, it's the fact that at 2-1, Villa looked absolutely in control. Yeah, we came out at half time and we kind of got ourselves back into the game. Great finish from Trent, you know, and I think at that point we were fully in control. Then they made 3 subs and that changed everything again. And at some point you have to give credit to the opposition, right? You know, we know Emery's a great manager. He's not stupid. He's not fresh. He's not a fresher in this game. You know, he's tactically aware. He's built himself a pretty good squad there, and he was always going to try and do something to make us uncomfortable, and he did that. You know, you have to give credit to those players. Tillemans was outstanding today, and sorry, the young English midfielder that Villa have got, his name completely goes out of my mind now. The one that Jacobs,
or Morgan Rogers.
Morgan Rogers, that's the one. Look,
is that the one? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Morgan Rogers, that midfield is pretty strong, mate. You know, Tillemans is no slouch. I know he's not the best in my opinion, but I think he's a competent player. And then you've got McGinn in there. He's a bit of a pit bull, a bit of a terrier, and that is a pretty fierce, combative, talented midfield that we had to go up against. Do you know what I mean? And I think at some point they were going to make their presence felt during the game, and they did. Yeah. You know, so. Listen, we take the point and run. I said it before, I'll say it again. Like, it's not a bad point. There's a lot of teams that are going to go to Villa and struggle.
Yeah, definitely. And Pat, when I just see this here, it says slot span work, XG, Villa 0.88, Liverpool 3.2. When you look at the chances created, especially the first half, like I say, we had 10. And then I think in the second half, we had 17 shots to Villa's 9. But equally, we only had 3 on target to Villa's 4. So you look at it and go, yes, we have created chances. We have these big chances that we're creating in these games. We just need to be a bit more clinical. And I think that XG almost sums up the second half, really, where they had chances to win it. We had chances to win it. Just seen Unai Emery's interview as well. He says, point is a fair result. Both teams pushing to try and win it towards the end. Haven't seen what Slot said just yet, but just thinking about that as well. The XG and kind of what both managers are saying, it kind of does sum up the second half. They had chances, we had chances. What did you make of the second half?
Well, I think we're sort of starting off with bad into the second half because we don't have like a clinical number line. We haven't had a clinical number line in a long time, and we're mainly relying on Mo Salah to do his thing. Now, at least when we had Gakpo, he'd be able to cut in off the left, and obviously he was coming off good form as well. So to not have Gakpo and be heavily reliant on Diaz for 90 minutes, and then not utilise maybe putting Diaz out wide, Salah through the middle, and maybe like Szoboszlai out right wing, and then maybe having like Elliot or Elliot right wing. I think Elliot needed to be used, and that could have changed the second half for us. I think Trent getting a goal he did was massive, obviously, but I think that could have easily just bounced out and hit off Mings a different way. Which is, I know that you can say that about anything, about any goals conceded or scored, but I didn't feel that we had that much control. I think for maybe 5-10 minutes between like the 60th and 65th minute, we had a little bit of something, and then we just seemed to fall apart again. And it just seemed to be that we were having chance after chance, and then it got to the 80-minute mark and 90-minute mark, and then Villa were at the helm. It seemed, and it seemed that we had lost control again. Obviously, we were lucky to not concede on multiple occasions from then, and it could have easily been 3-2, if not more, for Villa. So I would definitely take a point and have to go again for the weekend.
Yeah. No, and like you say, it is one of them where you kind of look at it and go, we did have a couple of chances, but there was periods of the game where we let them run through our midfield at times and kind of put us under a lot of pressure. And realistically, they had 2 goals disallowed for offside as well. So realistically, they've scored 4 on the night and 2 have been disallowed. I know the first one, you can say it's a good line. They kind of stepped up well enough, but the second one is so tight and he's just about offside. I know it's similar to the Mo Salah one at the weekend, really, where the defender's leg was a little bit further back and it looks like closer than it possibly was. But they did have chances in the game and they definitely could have won it themselves, especially I mentioned the Marlon chance right at the end. They had a couple of other chances just before that as well. But we do have to talk about the chances we missed as well. Just after being 1-1, Jota gets through 1-on-1. I think he could have had 2 or 3 goals there and it still goes wide. I'm not sure where he's trying to put it when he kind of went to curl it around the keeper. But then obviously the big one that comes towards the end. What I do want to say, I think we touched on it before the stream, Stitches, what you know is going to come now is loads of online hate is probably going to come for Darwin Núñez again, where it's the easy stick to beat him with when he doesn't score a chance. And I'm in no way defending the opportunity. You've got to absolutely put that in the net. But equally, we have missed chances in the game. He hasn't lost us the game. We haven't drawn the game just off that one chance. It is kind of a bit of perspective about the chance in particular, but I'm not defending it at all. He has to put that in the goal. But Stitches, what do you make of kind of the chances we did miss and the chances we had to win it?
So it's absolutely that, right? Let's just start this little segment that I'm about to start by saying Darwin Núñez absolutely has to put that goal away. Listen, the Sassy came in, dived, or no, we weren't the Sassy, was it? It was the other centre back. Mings came in with a slide tackle, and it was a shot. I just think look, first person that responsibility sits with is Darwin. Darwin's got to be able to be ice cold in those situations. But a long time ago, I heard someone describe strikers as either being ice cold or fiery hot.
Mm-hmm.
And ice cold strikers are the ones where everything is bedlam and they're able to just switch it all off and just be calm and composed. And then you've got the fiery hot strikers who are Captain Chaos, like Núñez. There doesn't seem to be any kind of composure. It's just all passion. And, you have those strikers. And I think, unfortunately, Núñez is one of those. And being one of those, when he's come on and banged 2 goals or played really well, and then he's on the bench for the next 3 games, and he's getting 15 minutes here and 10 minutes there, what you're going to get is a guy who comes on the pitch and just tries to do it all in that moment, who's not going to be composed, who's going to be like 100 miles per hour, trying to do everything, trying to make his mark on the game, overdoing it, running himself ragged instead of playing tactically, not being smart with his energy, running into every single challenge, which in some aspects we love. And then the time when it matters, when you need him to be cold and calm and composed, he's not going to be. So that's the responsibility. And unfortunately, my frustration is this with the digital fan base, as I like to call them, is that you have a debate with anyone and they tell you that Diego Jota is the best finisher at LFC. But as you said, Dylan, he had 7 shots in the first half and a 1v1, which you would put your house on Diego Jota being the best finisher we have, scoring, but that's okay. Right? And then Darwin misses 1 shot, which is his first shot after being on the pitch for about, 2-3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to absolutely get crucified. And as much as some of that is justified, it's just the inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as you said, you look at the XG today in terms of what we had out there in opportunities to win. You said Jota had 7 shots and none on target. Is that good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul or do anything like that. But I'm just trying to show the inconsistency here, like in terms of where the criticism is going to be. And the reality is people like Robbie Fowler, who's God to me, spending 10, 15 minutes on TNT Sports, go banging on about Nunes and how terrible he is and this, that, and the other. It's not going to help us at this stage of the season. It's not going to help him at this stage of the season. You say you're an LFC fan, so you've got to be a bit smarter than that. You've got like other teams have people come on and they try and create a defense for their players. We get legends go on and they just want to rip shreds out of our players, and it's just like, give it a
like
rest.
You say,
you've got the opposition fans who are going to do that all week anyway. Right, so why have we got to join in? Like, I think what does our motto say? You never walk alone. It seems like you never walk alone unless we're absolutely pissed with you. You miss a chance with 15 minutes to go, then you got to walk alone for the whole week until you get onto the next game, or for the next few games until you get on and score a goal. That's what's going to happen. So does that motto really mean anything to us as a fan base? Like, I don't know. It's just maybe I'm being naive, and I'm just like, at this stage of the season, 8 points clear. Yes, we've played one game more. Nobody in their wildest imaginations imagined that would be here at any point when Klopp told us he was leaving. So to kind of want to, it's that thing, innit? We always want to find a scapegoat. There's always got to be one player, no matter how well things are going, that's going to be the go-to guy, right? And he could do 8 good things in a game and one absolute howler, and all we're going to remember is the howler. And I'm just as guilty of it as everyone else, I know. Yeah. But it is what we do, isn't it? But yes, to come back to the point, factually, emotions aside, we do need a number 9 that's going to bag. That's going to bag. It's going to be clinical, and you're not just going to find them on a street corner. You're not just going to find them anywhere. There's a reason why those players cost a lot of money, and and they don't come along too often. So we got to try and hope that Edwards and Hughes are working their magic somewhere, trying to find us one of those players.
Yeah, no, completely. And if you almost had a mixture between the two of them, if you had Darwin Nunez's availability and Jota's finishing, you'd have a striker on your hands, because he's slot, like people call him Jota the Slotter. He does put it away often. I know today he's fluffed that one-on-one, but he does normally, when he's given an opportunity, take one. But Pat, what do you make of our striking options? I know people are talking about a big summer, potentially 4 strikers. With what we've got at the moment, for these next 2 games in particular, the massive 2 games, what would you kind of be thinking? Would you be going with Jota now, especially after the kind of miss? Because Darwin is an emotional player, so that probably now will weigh on him, the fact he's missed that today, and kind of will, I imagine, I don't want it to happen, but I imagine he'll probably get a lot of hate online from it. So it's probably going to have to be Jota for the next couple of games as well, isn't it? And hopefully he starts putting them away again.
Yeah, I think not having that clinical number 9 is hindered us massively. And just to touch on what Stitcher said, I really agree with him with the fiery hot player and the ice cold player. I think the flip side to Nunes is Alexander Isak. He's the player you want, that you can count on, that you sort of put your house on. Someone like a Jota, but not as injury prone, and obviously younger, livelier. So it just seems to be, when the ball fell to Nunes, it's quite bad, because I was in the mindset right there and then of, he's going to miss this. He's going to miss it, because you can just see him snatch at it. Normally, in certain scenarios, you can see when Nunes doesn't have time to think and he just puts his boot through the ball, he can get in the back of the net sometimes. But it's when he has time to think, and there you like to think he'd be able to put it into an open net, but I think it's just obviously the defender running onto the ball. You had to be quick with it, and you'd like to think that he'd be composed enough to put it in the back of the net. But I think you see it in training videos. He can do it. He's got the ability there. Just as soon as it comes to the pitch, he just loses his head. Going forward, I think it's going to be difficult who you actually play in that number 9, because I don't know if I'd start either Jota or Darwin, to be honest. Potentially, but then we're just running him ragged then, and then we're going to complain at him, and he's going to get all the hate. And I think, obviously, Nunes is in the mindset of Saudi Arabia. obviously you tell Jota wants to play for us, but you never know if he's going to get injured again or not. And I think, yeah, God knows what's going on with Diaz. So going forward, it will be difficult. It's just game by game basis on who's performing well in training. But yeah, don't really know who's set.
Yeah, no, I completely. And what you said there about as well, when he is, because he has that kind of emotion to him, it's almost like he wants to break the net every time he's in front of goal, rather than potentially just stroke it in a corner or just tapping it in the corner. They both count the same. Just tap it in the corner sometimes, but he often just wants to score the perfect strike, doesn't he, rather than just tapping it in the corner and putting us away. In terms of the next couple of games, obviously with us being 8 points ahead now, with Arsenal playing before us at the weekend, could be 5 by the time we play City. Stitches, what are your thoughts of? I know I'm not going to get too much into it because obviously we'll have pre-match streams and stuff beforehand. But what do you think of this next week? Do you think it is massively pivotal towards the rest of the season, or do you think kind of see what Arsenal do first and then see what kind of pressure's on us after that?
I think it is massively pivotal. I just don't think Arsenal doesn't really necessarily enter my thinking. I just think let's just keep putting points on the board.
Yeah,
because the pressure really is on them. It's not on us, right? They're the ones that are chasing the deficit. They're the ones that can't afford to drop points or in any way, shape, or form. We can, that's the reason we've got the gap. So that things like this, these little periods, we can get through it and it still looks rosy. Do you know what I mean? At this stage in time, any kind of lead is a positive lead, and we've got 8 points ahead of us. Do you know what I'm saying? And listen, this is the benefit of the Premier League, in that any team can take points off any team, right? And Arsenal still have to play West Ham, which is a London derby, and they've got the new manager bounce. Not saying that West Ham are going to beat them, but it's not going to be a straightforward game, as it would have been 5 games ago when they had a different manager, or longer. And then they've got Nottingham Forest, right? And we all know what Nottingham Forest can do, right? So it's not straightforward. And then they've got Man United, right? And Man United, for everything you want to say about Man United, when it comes to playing the bigger clubs, they generally turn up. Like, I'm not saying they're gonna beat Arsenal, but with Arsenal got no striker and they're relying on that to go and win the game. It's those players seem to be able to raise their game, and I'm not holding out hope and saying I'm waiting for Man United to go and do us a favour or all of this stuff. But I'm just saying, just the same way everyone literally every single week from the start of the season, I've heard this is a must-win game. This is a must-win game. Yeah, where we are. Right? Yeah. And Arsenal it's a must-win game for them. If it's a must-win game for us, it's an absolutely must-win game for Arsenal. Exactly, so that pressure is, that pressure is on them, not us. I'm just happy for us to. I think what I'm more concerned about is us finding our way in our own game in regards to getting that control back. Right? We're doing just enough at this moment in time, but I think if we can find that gear to get that control back, and that potential might happen, when we're not playing 2 games a week for the next, 6 weeks, you might see us start to, perform better at that point. But it's a tricky period that we've had to navigate, as we have had to all season, but exceptionally tricky right now. And I think we're doing that. And, so I'm just not as concerned as others. And I'm not buying into this whole jeopardy hype. I'm really not. I'm just kind of like, listen, we're in pole position. Bar something completely mental happening, I don't see Arsenal going the rest of the season unbeaten and beating everyone in front of them. I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
Well, they got to beat us as well. I mean? So
yeah, and they've still got to play us. I just don't see it. Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting question. Will you accept a draw against City? What do you reckon, Stitches?
If I must, but I'd prefer a win.
Yeah.
If I must, a draw against a rejuvenated City is not, it's not the worst thing in the world. But looking at how Real Madrid just dismantled them tonight, right? There's got to be a mental hangover from that. And I'm hoping we can capitalize on it. And I think it's definitely a game where we need to take our chances. That's the key thing against City. When you get those chances, you're going to need to take them, because there will be a period in a game where City put you on an exceptional amount of pressure. And we're going to have to be able to deal with that. And I trust the team to be able to do it. And with the Anfield crowd roaring us on, I believe it is at Anfield, isn't it?
It's at the Etihad this time.
It's at the Etihad. Oh God.
Yeah, it's at the Etihad.
Yeah. Well, it's not exactly the loudest stadium out there, is it? So.
What about you, Pat? Or do you take a draw?
I'm sort of in the mindset I agree with Stitches as well, where a draw, yeah, at the least. And to be fair, yeah, I think had City have won today and beat Madrid, I think I would take a point. But going off their form today, I think we do need to sort of put them sort of in their place in a way, because as things have been said, obviously, stay humble has been going around. So I think I'll say that now, but then come to the game, I think what Arsenal do could affect the mindset of the players as well, going off the Arsenal West Ham game. And I think I want West Ham to give them a good go on. So then when Liverpool come to it and we are at the Etihad, we are in that sort of mindset. I think one thing that has helped us is when we played them early on this season. We're coming off that game as well, and City are going to struggle, but they are going to put plenty of shots in. So I hope Alisson's just ready to make save after save. There will be a lot of saves to make. It's just we need to be able to be clinical on the other end of it. So
yeah, I think I'm slightly in a similar boat. I feel like a draw isn't the absolute worst in the world, but would I accept a draw? I'm not sure I would. I want to go there and send a message, and I want to say the pressure's now completely on you, Arsenal. You might have beat City, but we're going to go, and I hope we go there and beat them 2 or 3-0 and be quite comfortable in the game, and then go, do you know what? We're here to win this Premier League, and we're going to take this all the way to you. So I don't think accepting a draw, if it is a draw, it's not the worst result in the world. Don't get me wrong, but I want to go there and absolutely batter them and just go. When we played Real Madrid 1-2-0, we beat City 2-0. Hopefully they've lost tonight to Real Madrid, and then we'll just echo it and do the exact same to them and do the same with the results. So I'm not accepting a draw. I want to go there and absolutely beat them. Yeah. Good. In terms of player of the matches from us today, is there anyone in particular? I know they gave it to Tielemans at the end, but do you think is there anyone? What's that, Pat? It keeps going and fading away.
Real Madrid won 3-1, so it was 6-3 on aggregate. Just to let you know.
Go. Yeah, even better. There you go. Good. Yeah, is there anyone, Stitches, you think for us that kind of stood out today? I know Mo Salah, another goal and assist, but is there anyone you think can carry this kind of in the next couple of weeks and be positive?
I thought the pick of the bunch for me today was Jones, actually, Curtis Jones. I thought he had a pretty solid game. I did think he ran out of legs towards the end. There was just times where he was chasing back and he couldn't quite get there, but he still did enough to be a bit annoying, like a little lean in or a little slide in just to put the player off. I thought he was decent on the ball. I thought he did well. I mean, there wasn't anyone who was amazing today on our side. I think Mo Salah was Mo Salah. Yeah. I could give it to him every single week for being Mo Salah, but I just felt today, I think for me it was Curtis Jones.
Fair. Yeah. What about for you, Pat? Anyone that stood out in particular?
No one that stood out. Like you said, we're all sort of we're kind of mediocre in a way. I think Alisson, I give Alisson top notches for being there when we needed him, although he did concede through silly mistakes. But then I would also give it to maybe Gravenberch, because he is there in and out every week. You can rely on him, although he wasn't able to run with the ball as much as we would have liked him to. He wasn't able to be that sort of playmaker. But there's no really stand out for me, to be honest.
No, I think for me, like you both said, there's no one that really. Mo Salah gets the goal and the assist again, so he's the one that will get the headlines in terms of probably our best player when it comes to the stats of it and everything like that. But I think Van Dijk was quite solid throughout the game. Nothing really too negative there for him. I know conceding 2 goals still isn't great, but it's the defensive from the kind of set pieces where we could have been better. So potentially organising that is a negative for that side of things. But I don't think he had the worst game in the world. Alisson, like you say, a couple of decent saves again, looks to be back to kind of making saves that he was always making, and you'd kind of expect him to make in terms of his level. But other than that, I think it was quite an even game. There was no one really that stood out as a massive kind of shining light for either team, I don't think. And when they said Tielemans was it, I know you said Stitches, he had a good game. I thought there's quite a few in there that had a quite good game. Morgan Rogers, like you touched on, had a good game for them. I actually think the right back for them played quite well as well. The can't remember his name now, but the right back, the Spanish lad who played right back for them. I was just seeing a comment there from
Garcia?
Garcia.
Yeah.
Didn't know you in the loo, mate. No, my office is just below the stairs, mate. It's not. I'm not on the toilet. Don't worry. One question that I saw come up earlier on was just around Trent as well. In terms of someone, I think it was Jay Muse as well, said, what did we think of Trent other than the goal for himself? Do you feel like he was kind of jogging around at stages too? I can't really. If I'm honest, there's nothing that kind of stood out to me as that for tonight compared to some of the other performances where I think it did. But is there anything in that, Stitches? Do you think he wasn't in the game much, or do you think he was okay?
I always worry when Trent Frey faces speedy, tricky players, and Rashford. I feel like Rashford can make most people look pedestrian. He's got electric pace, but I thought Trent did quite well. Up against him, bar one or two times where Rashford managed to get the drop of the shoulder on him and get to the byline. Other than that, I didn't necessarily think Trent was walking around. I think, unfortunately for Trent, he's one of these players that's got quite a languid style of play, and it can translate into looking like he's not putting the effort in. But I thought he did all right, and I think the substitution was more to do with keeping his legs for the City game than because of his performance. I think that Slot is just trying to manage the minutes in the players' legs more than anything.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much about at the end of the game with Bradley obviously going down injured and having to come back off, having come on himself. Hopefully that's not too much of an issue. It seemed quite innocuous. There wasn't really much in it, and obviously went down by himself after I think he was trying to block across, and he was a couple of yards away from the player. Do you think that could be a concern if there's like Joe Gomez out, and potentially if he is out, Jay Muse says there, hear him potentially weeks on it. I haven't read anything on it myself yet, so I'll check it afterwards. But what do you think? Is it a bit of a concern if we are having a couple of dwindling numbers there, if Jarrod Kwanzaa's potentially going to have to step into a couple of positions or cover across?
Yeah, no, that will be difficult. I hope Bradley's all right, but then realistically, we're preparing Trent for City, but then he's more than likely going to have to come off in the second half to save his legs. But then who do we play there? Does Endo go right back? Do we play Kwanzaa right back? Yeah. Do we have enough faith that he can put in the ball that Trent or Bradley could do, or make the runs that Trent or Bradley can make? So, I think a knock to Bradley is massive for us, and hopefully he's okay. I think Trent obviously understood why he got taken off for the City game, but then it was just a case of now that Trent scored his goal, let's just hope that Bradley can sort of defend and make sure that we don't concede another. So hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, like you say, hopefully it's not too long out, and if it is, Trent might have to play a little bit longer against City, and then with Newcastle coming up as well. But then obviously the international break and stuff comes after that, and only the one Premier League game in March, where we've got a couple of cup games and stuff come into play again. So the cup final and the Champions League. So slightly quieter in the Premier League for that period, but just as important. So in terms of the knockout stages of the Champions League. So hopefully he does come back not too further down the line. Good. Anything else either of the two of you wants to talk through from today's game, or otherwise we'll call it there if you want, lads?
Just, let's not buy into this media hype. Let's try and stay positive, Reds. I know if you can't enjoy the title chase, you can't enjoy the fact that we're 8 points ahead at this stage, 13 games to go. We're still in the Champions League proper. We've got a cup final to look forward to. And do you know what I mean? The whole world's against us. The league, they want to talk about we're lucky or we haven't had injuries, and they're all finding 1,000,001 reasons to downplay our achievement when at the end of last season they didn't expect us to be anywhere near this. So I think if there's anything, let's just let's enjoy the ride, folks. If you can't enjoy the ride and a title chase, then what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? That's all I really want to say. I just don't want any negativity around us. Let's get a bit of a buzz going. Let's make it a bit of a carnival atmosphere in the run-in. Let's make some noise and just enjoy the ride, man, because nobody expected this at all. So yeah, rather than negativity, let's enjoy this chasing.
And I think that's pretty much echoing Virgil's words this week, wasn't it? He said, there's going to be nerves along the way. We're in a title race, but let's enjoy the ride. Let's actually enjoy being top and see if a team can chase us down for a change rather than us being potentially us and City chasing each other the whole time. So there is going to be ups and downs. We're not going to win every game until the end of the season. It's just not realistic. There's going to be draws. There might even be the odd defeat in there. But like Jamie has just said at the bottom there, and like Stitches has stay positive, everyone. Still 8 points clear. Let's not panic just because we've drawn a game. Villa played well in the game. They deserved something out of it themselves. I mean, if Darwin Núñez puts that away and we win 3-2, even better. But equally, they win 3-2 and we're all sat here going, we've lost the game rather than feeling good about it. So let's not panic. 8 points clear. Let's see what Arsenal do. And then hopefully let's go and beat City away at the weekend and send a message out there to everyone else. Good. Well, before we finish off, just same as I started with before, just remember to like and subscribe to everything, turn on your notifications for future streams, and we'll have future streams at 7:30 throughout the week, post matches at the weekend, pre-match beforehand as well. So tune into everything else as well. Thank you to the 6,500-ish, somewhere around there, that have joined us for tonight. Thank you, Stitches. Thank you, Pat, for joining us as well. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Good night, everyone. Up the Reds.
Take care. Bye.